What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Steak and Antler Show with your host, me. I'm Sam. New apartment, new city, Fort Worth. Big old piece of meat. That's what we're cooking today. Well, we're not really cooking today. We're gonna dry age some meat. First, you're gonna need meat. When you're at the store, if you're wanting to dry age meat, you need to get a big piece of meat because once it... I hate that so much. If you're thinking about getting into dry aging, you need to get a really big piece of meat. Dang it. If you're I'm sorry. This is really embarrassing. If you're thinking about getting into dry aging, if you're thinking about dry aging meat, you need to probably get at least about 5 pounds, because if you just get a little steak just at the store, like one individual steak, and you try to dry age it, you're gonna have to cut off a lot of meat. That's gonna leave you with a really small piece of steak. And so that's why we got this really big. It's about 10.5 pounds worth of meat. We're planning on probably cutting off a pound or two worth of the gristle or the oxidized meat. You're gonna need one of these umai, they're called umai bags. It's basically just a membrane, but it allows air to circulate through, moisture to get out without bacteria forming on the meat. You need a pair of gloves. Your umai bags also come with some labels that you can write the day that you started and then the day that you want to end. Set a timer on your phone and you can just forget about it. Over here, you're gonna need a vacuum sealer. You can, I believe on the website for the umai bags, you don't have to use a vacuum sealer. Lastly, you're gonna want a pan. I've got a really piece of junk cookie pan, and then I've got a rack that's gonna elevate the meat, and so it's gonna allow air to circulate so that all of the meat can age at the same speed. So we're gonna put this in there for 21 days, slap a label on it, and then just check it every few days. You want the dry aged meat to be in a well ventilated area in the fridge. So if you're putting it in a fridge that's like out in the garage, you still at least want to make sure to open it every couple days just to get some air circulating through. So we're going to show you guys how to prep this, get it in the bag, and then get it ready for the dry age. All right, so I'm going to grab our gloves. Hands are already pretty clean, but you want this to be as clean of a process as it can be. So when you're putting this big piece of meat in the bag, you want to expose it to air as little as possible. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the bag ready to open. We're gonna tear open a piece of this bag and slip the meat into the umai bag and then try to transfer it out so it touches air as little as possible. We're gonna start to turn the bag inside out and slip it just over the ribeye. Okay, so once we've got it mostly in there, we're gonna turn the bag over, and at the same time we pull the bag out, we pull the main bag up, and then we start to fold up. And since a lot of the meat didn't really touch the air all that much, we're able just to take our gloves off, re-roll the bag. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this little piece that comes with the bag in our vacuum seal. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna just kind of trap some of that extra moisture that's gonna come out of here with the vacuum seal. And you want to make sure that the bag adheres to a lot of the meat. And so this bag is actually a little bit too wide for the vacuum sealer. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna crack it open and we're gonna seal a small component of it. And the website actually recommends doing a double seal because these bags aren't necessarily made for the vacuum sealer. They're not made to be sealed on the first go round. So while we're sealing the first one, the first seal just ended. You want to wait about 10 seconds and then we will reseal again. We will just press the seal button again. As you guys can see, the bag is starting to adhere really well. And so we just want to make sure that we're keeping that consistent. So our seal is done. We're going to pop this open. As you guys can see, it's been perfectly creased. We're going to set it on dry setting on vacuum. And then we're going to let it vacuum. So we're gonna do one seal, then we're gonna do a double seal. So there's our first seal. We're gonna give it a few seconds to cool down. All right, one more seal. Okay, so our second component is done. We're double sealed, 10.465 pounds in total. So we're gonna weigh this again when we're done to see how much water loss we truly had. So we're gonna set it on the rack. And when you put this in the fridge, you want it to be the only thing on the rack. You don't want anything else close to it. So we're gonna take it, set it in the fridge. So we've put the steak in the fridge. We'll catch you guys in 21 days for part 2 of the cooking video. Catch you later. 21 days later, now it's time to check the fridge, see how our dry age turned out. Again, guys, this was dry aged in my fridge for 21 days, as this was my first dry age ever. And so, as we can see, the pellicle has formed. It's pretty dense. We're gonna get this thing out of the bag, get it weighed, and determine how much water loss was actually made. All right, everybody, like I mentioned, when we got this thing to get it ready to dry age, this was 10.465 pounds without the bag on it. And so we're gonna take this thing out of the bag, weigh it. Our scale currently shows 0, including the foil that's on it, just to protect it. It doesn't smell rotted at all. It's a very intense, beefy smell. The only reason I'm not wearing gloves this time is I really want to feel the texture of this and how this has changed. I'm not sure if you guys are able to see that. I'll show it to the camera. But the meat component is really indented, which shows that a lot of the moisture has really been drawn out of this meat. The fat has still kind of stayed, but overall the meat has started to really dry. So it'll be interesting to see how much this thing truly weighs. Okay, so we've gotten it out of the bag. As you can see, the pellicle has turned a pretty intense dark color. I mean, it is dense, it doesn't feel very wet. Zeroed out, 10.465 or 45, I'm dyslexic, I'll look it up. 9.104 pounds. So this has lost about 1.3 pounds, I guess. That math probably isn't right. My math's not mathing right now. I'm really excited to see what this looks like on the inside. Again, we've been dry aging this for over 3 weeks. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the ends off and make sure that we're good to go there. And then I'm going to divide the roast into steaks, and then I will trim the steaks individually and vacuum seal those. We're gonna get started. Here's the first cut. It feels very tender. I may just be making that up, but oh wow. Guys, take a look at this steak. You know, guys, I was kind of worried about this, how this steak was going to come out. My fridge doesn't have a temperature dial, it has a setting dial. So I just put it on the lowest setting, and I actually kept a meat probe in there, and it showed between 34 and 37 degrees. And that's the temperature that I've kept it at for the last 21 days. I am actually shocked. I am so happy with how this is looking like it's coming out so far. Trying to remove as little as possible. Because this was a $240 cut of meat. It doesn't smell bad. It smells just like really intense beef. But guys, I mean, look at this. We're gonna discard the pellicle. Some people claim that you can put it in burger meat and make it into burgers and use it. I'm not gonna recommend that at all. I've never done this, and so I would not recommend doing that. I think you should just toss this out. These to me are just absolutely beautiful steaks. We're going to vacuum seal these steaks afterwards. I'm gonna freeze most of these. These were prime cuts. I mean, look at the marbling. Marbling is very consistent throughout. No, I don't smell any evidence of rot. I mean, these just look phenomenal. I don't think these could have come out any better than they did. We're going to cut the pellicle. We're basically going to trim each of these steaks. We're not going to keep the pellicle, so I'm just going to cut those off. I'm going to try to preserve as much meat as I can. But with the dry age process, if you're going to try this at home, you need to be comfortable with losing some meat, just because it's been oxidized and it's very bitter and just basically gristle. You guys, as you can see, the steak actually gets a lot smaller once we trim it. That one's just kind of the test run. All right, everybody, there you have it. We have 12 beautiful dry aged steaks. Time to get these vacuum sealed. We're going to vacuum seal them with a little bit of garlic, fresh garlic, and some rosemary compound butter. Put these in the fridge until tomorrow and get them ready to cook them up. I'm gonna get these ready for the vacuum seal. We're going to put each of these in a bag with some freshly ground garlic, salt and pepper, and then some rosemary compound butter that I made. So these are gonna be really, really phenomenal, I hope. We're gonna cook these in the water bath and then flash sear these on the grill to give them a nice color. So hope you guys stay tuned for part 3, where we just really get to test out if these are worth it or not. Catch you guys here in just a little bit.